Are you struggling with early extension, being able to maintain your posture on the downswing? If so, perhaps it's your backswing movement. Stay tuned for more info about how changing your backswing movement could really have the effect you're looking for on the downswing. Welcome back to the TruGolf Academy. You join me, Jon Watts, today at Branston Golf and Country Club. Today's video, as I mentioned there in the intro, is all about early extension. So we're going to be talking about maintaining your posture better on the downswing and how the backswing is involved in that. Before we get cracking, if you haven't already, make sure you hit the thumbs up to this video and do subscribe to my channel for all the other content every Tuesday, Thursday, as well as some Saturday specials. So early extension, let's quickly talk through what it is for those who are a little bit unsure. Our body has to extend, i.e. straighten at some point, but we want it to be happening at impact and post-impact on the way through. What we see with so many golfers is their body extending, straightening, coming out of posture or out of flexion too early in their in their downswing. So we set this spine angle, we are creating some flexion here, and we want to be able to maintain that through to around impact rather than losing all angles. And it's an area of the game that most golfers struggle with. I don't know any real good golfers who haven't worked on it at some stage. It's not something we're just able to do and maintain. And kids who take up the game from an early age will all be early extending and have to get out of it at some stage. When we're not strong enough, we tend to sort of thrust our lower body at the ball, our trail heel comes up early, and we tend to throw our hands at it. And as we get stronger, we're able to perhaps maintain that flexion better. Some of this, of course, is physical. It's looking at tightness in our legs and in our hips, hip mobility, as well as our glutes, our backside. There is a huge part that has got to do with strength, mobility and flexibility. So obviously it's an area to look at also. But what I'm going to be talking about is the backswing movement and how that can help your downswing. And it was brought upon by something I'd seen at a bit of a Tiger Woods interview, and he was talking about what he was working on in his golf swing. And he was talking about early extension and trying to maintain posture better on the downswing. It's something I feel he's always done really well. I've got some videos of him going back to early 2000s where his spine angle would be going this way on the downswing that we see with so many great golfers, and he was definitely creating more flexion on the downswing, not losing it. But it's something he's felt or feels when he creates or loses some or gets too tight, I should say, really in his right hip flexor on the backswing and doesn't load correctly. He feels like he early extends as he drives. So let me break that down into what that really means for you and I. If we do not load better into our backswing, if there's more of a slide of the hips rather than a rotation of the hips, and we haven't loaded into this hip flexor here, into this trail hip, then as we drive our pressure towards the target at the start of the downswing, what he's suggesting, and I definitely agree, is we're going to see our lower body moving out towards the golf ball. What we really want to be able to see here is this trail hip actually load correctly, i.e. rotate, turn behind you. So now we've got our backside behind that line, and a great exercise for you if you're videoing yourself is video from down line. Draw a line on your backside here on your tailbone. We really want on the backswing your trail hip to be on or slightly behind that line. As we start our downswing, we would like both bum cheeks pretty much on that line or slightly behind the line, and then my lead hip, my left hip, working behind that line. What we don't want to see at any stage is our hips moving forwards off that line. So we really want to allow our trail hip to move a little bit more behind us in the backswing, loading that hip correctly to mean that on the downswing, as we shift our pressure towards our lead foot, we can maintain posture or flexion. That what we're not seeing here, if we don't load correctly into my trail hip, is when I drive there, you can see I've lost my posture. So it's a really vital area. So as an exercise, as a drill, what I want you to do is, I'm just going to use a cane and just put a pool noodle tubing over the top, but you could do anything really here. So I'm going to put something in just past my trail foot, almost on the outside edge here. And what I'm going to feel like I do is actually get my trail hip moving behind this line. I still want my pressure to be felt on the inside edge of my trail thigh. So what I don't want to see is this starter movement where you can see this huge gap created. I want to feel like there's almost a little bit of a bump towards this tubing on the backswing, and then a rotation where you can start to see here my right bum cheek has moved behind that line. I'm really feeling that I'm creating that coil up into my trail hip, my right hip on the backswing, or loading correctly. If we can get that backswing better, we're going to maintain our posture, or it's a lot easier to maintain our posture, our flexion on the downswing. So what we're trying to feel, as I said, to reiterate one more time, is that feeling of almost moving a little bit towards the pool noodle here, the tubing, and then turning behind it. So I'm fully loaded into the inside edge of my trail thigh, but I feel like my right hip, my trail hip, has moved behind me. And that's really loading better into my trail side to help me maintain my posture on the downswing rather than this slide forwards towards the target. You could, of course, go ahead. I'll see if I can get this in a little bit further. I was a bit hesitant of hitting it, just because it's sticking up a little bit too far. There we go. So let's give it a whirl. I'm going to get that feeling. I'm going to do a nice slow one of my trail hip moving, or my trail thigh moving into the tubing, and my hip moving behind me, really loading into that trail side. You will see that line on my back side, and I'm trying to stay behind that line, not let my lower body going forwards. So I really got that sensation. I hit this with my arms on the downswing, a little bit off-putting. Perhaps we can set it even a little bit lower here, but I definitely got that feeling of moving my trail hip more behind me on the backswing, and that really helped me maintain my posture on the downswing and stop that early extension. Definitely look at physical parts. Are you too tight in your calf muscles, your quads, in your glutes, your backside, or in those hip flexors? There's lots of exercises you should perhaps look at doing. Check out the TPI guys, the Titleist Performance Institute, for golf specific training. Well worth looking at. Lots of mobility areas to see really, or test to see, have you got the ability to maintain your posture in the backswing, in the downswing, or are you always going to be losing it, and therefore you really need to look at those areas. As a golf swing point of view, I would draw that line on your tailbone and give this exercise a go. If you can get that feeling of loading better into your trail hip, I know it's going to help you start your downswing better, maintain your posture. As I said, this is an area I know Tiger's working on right now, so perhaps we all should. If this video has helped, give us a thumbs up and do subscribe, as I said at the start there. Cheers, guys.